The Lupin Co. is a food company based entirely around Australian sweet lupin as a high-protein, low-carbohydrate food for the modern world. The business is based in Bullsbrook, Western Australia, and we use Australian sweet lupin beans that are grown in Western Australia. Now, this bean is a highly sustainable protein source. 90% of the world's production of a low bitter lupin, Australian sweet lupin, is grown in Western Australia and has historically been exported as a stock feed. We came quite a challenging story to explain to people just what lupins were, mainly because people weren't all that familiar with legumes and what legumes took to human health. We bring in very large volumes of lupins at a time to remove the outside fibrous hull from the lupins. After that, it goes up this tube and then into a colour sorter. I see this as the future of many of our foods. There's no doubt at all that globally we need to do a lot more than we're currently doing with our protein sources. We need sources that are really easy to use, that are a low-risk product that is super stable. We know that there are continents around the world that have got major logistic issues in terms of transport of those existing protein sources, whereas this is so simple to transport, it's shelf stable for years, and it's a highly sustainable protein source. How does it deal with this whole big issue of capturing carbon? And so the lupin grows to around about 1 metre tall. Below the surface, it's got an amazing root ball and a very, very deep taproot. So those roots are made up largely of carbon, sequestering carbon. The other aspect of lupin is that it produces little nodules of nitrogen, and they're attached to the roots of the lupin plant, we call organic nitrogen. The alternative to that is buying in a nitrogen fertiliser which comes from natural gas. Because lupin produces such a huge amount of organic nitrogen, combined with the ability to sequester a whole lot of carbon, this delivers wholeheartedly as a sustainable food source that is really doing some amazing good for the environment. After the first part of the process where the husk is removed, it goes into these 4 vibrating trays, and then very gradually they are vibrated through these plates or rivers as we call them. And then further down we have a series of cameras that look at every single grain that's coming through and it identifies whether it's good to keep or reject it because it's got a colour that we don't want. And we calibrate very, very carefully for colour, so all we want is that beautiful yellow endosperm colour. It's got such a quality heritage of health and nutrition with good science behind it in terms of dealing with things like weight management, in terms of blood pressure management, in terms of cholesterol management. And it all stems from being such a high protein source and low carbohydrate fundamentally. More recently, we've decided to use Australian sweet lupin flour as a low bitter flour to be able to manufacture a pasta which we call pasta protein. So the first one that we've taken to market is a fusilli type shape, which is made from Australian sweet lupin and Australian water. It's got nothing else in it. We make it on site here, we dry it on site, we pack it on site, and we're now marketing it to a global market. The really good thing about this is that it's gluten-free with 40% protein, 4% carbs and nearly 40% dietary fibre, which is unheard of. The comment from people has been, this is amazing, how come I haven't heard about it? That's history. The future is, this is amazing, how else can I use it? Our aim now is to continue to expand out the pasta range into a whole new category, if you like, of foods that are low in carbohydrate, 40% protein, and really does compete well with red meat, for example, at 26% protein, wheat-type pastas at 70-75% carbohydrate. So there's a real market there for it in terms of value that we take to the consumer. A lot of our story is about the sustainability of protein production, a reduction in chemical use, nitrogen as a fertiliser, but it's also about how do we value the things like we love pasta but we don't like the carbohydrate. And we know that pasta is really only, about 8 or 9% protein, but here we've got 40% protein. How do we put a value on that? And we just say that it's different and it's better. It comes from a totally different source. It's got a different mouthfeel. It's a better way of cooking. It's a reduction in energy use. You don't need very much of it because it delivers in terms of health benefits. Our pasta has 8 times more dietary fibre, 8 times less carbohydrate, and 5 times more protein than your standard wheat flour type pasta. The other part of it is that you really only need about 50 grams, mainly because protein helps the tummy to switch the brain off in terms of appetite. So in terms of dollars per meal, the cost is really, really low. So this is the flour that we use to make our pasta. There's nothing else goes into this, so this whole mantra, our whole philosophy of clean label just carries through from this part here. There's no chemicals, there's no wet processing, it's an entirely dry process. In a world that's so full of type 2 diabetes and sugar and salt and fat, whereas this is something that it just delivers in so many different ways.